So today is the last Sunday of 2014. How do you feel about that? Yeah. There's
riddance.
If I could use the metaphor of a book, if your life was the book, right, made up of X number of chapters, and each year was a chapter, right? So some of you got a really big, thick book already, like Ken Dawes. You got a novel going, dude. You've got a classic, right?
Did you just call him old?
I didn't call you old. Did you hear old in that? I heard seasoned and wise. But if every chapter, was a year, what would you title this year's chapter? What would you title 2014, maybe in one or two words? What would that, if someone was looking through, I'm going to see if I'm going to read this book, what would you title 2014?
Not again.
Not again? So
South Campus, someone said disaster.
Yeah.
Chapter 11.
A little bit of a tragedy. What did you say? New beginnings. Okay.
Right.
Somebody else. What was it? Exploration. That kind of make you want to read that chapter, right? Find out what you were exploring. Anybody else? Surrender.
Good.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else? What? Got it. Growth. Total submission.
I like it.
That's scary, actually. Sounds like a horror movie, all right? Thriller. Total submission. Uh-oh.
Sounds like wrestling. You want to wrestle?
You want to wrestle? No. It's all on camera, folks, and watch it on Tuesday. So, okay, you go. I'm done.
So the Bible actually describes this. There's a reason why we're going there, because it's common to every man is that we only have so many days, and we don't know how many days there are, right? That's just true. You don't know how many days you have, but everyone only has so many here on this earth. Now, there's an eternal spirit that resides in you, and that spirit's going to go somewhere, but this, what we have right here and what we're experiencing right here is only going to last so long. And so the psalmist asks this question of God in Psalms 39, starting in verse 4. He says this, "Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days." I think it's a really wise question to ask. Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The shortest unit of measurement in Old Testament is just this, right? The span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure. And just in that brief encounter, that brief prayer that he has with God, he already gets this perspective as he asks, God, help me figure out my life here and where I'm at in my life, where the beginning from the end to the middle to where am I and what do I do with it? And he comes away just a sentence later saying, wow, it's short. It's short. And what I do with it matters. Again, in Psalms 90, this is said, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." So it even gives the explanation of why are we asking this question? Why do we want to know? Like, I don't want to talk about death, Jason. This is morbid and terrible. This is the new year. Shouldn't we talk about new life? But the psalmist here says the reason why I'm asking is because I want wisdom. I want to know. Because if you think of time like money, at the beginning of your life, you seem like you got a lot of it ahead of you, and you can just kind of do this with it. Look at this. I'll just buy this and spend this. But as life goes on and you find yourself farther down the road, you want to start thinking, well, how much of this do I have left? And what am I supposed to be accomplishing with it? And how near am I to accomplishing the tasks of God for my generation, for the place and time that he put me?
Number, when he uses the word number, this is what it means: to arrange it, to assign, and to make it ready, to prepare it. When he said, "Teach me to number my days," what he's saying is, the psalmist is saying, Lord, teach me to arrange my days, to get them ready. And so there's the sense of deliberate. There's a sense of really taking stock and organizing. And this isn't about organization per se, but it's about spending well. There's a movie that's coming out. It actually just came out December 25th called Unbroken. Angelina Jolie directed it. It's got a lot of press. It's actually based on a true story about a guy named Louis Zamperini, who was a World War II crew member in a B-24 bomber. And in the book, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I read the book. And in the book, they crash in the ocean. And the part I want to just mention here is that he and the pilot and one of the crew members are the only three people that survive the crash. And they spend, I don't remember exactly, something like they broke a record, 43 days at sea without, and surviving. No one else had survived that long at sea. Now imagine if you were that person that just crashed in the middle of the South Pacific, and you have no idea when you're going to be rescued. You have no idea when help is coming. And as you clamber into that life raft, the only thing in that raft is a case of bottled water. Now you can live chemically, scientifically, they say about 40 days without food, and then your body's going to start to cannibalize itself, but you can't live more than 72 hours without water. Your body shuts down and dies. So imagine that in that raft is 24 bottles or 48, depending on where you buy your bottled water, in a case, and that's all you have, and you have no idea if you're going to have any more. And once that water runs out, the clock starts to tick till you die. Wouldn't you all of a sudden look at something? Did I say that backwards?
No.
You make a face?
I was thinking about taking your water.
Yeah. Wouldn't something, now this bottle of water is 99 cents at 100 places within 10 minutes of this building. You can find this for 99 cents just about anywhere you go, more or less. But all of a sudden, something that is common and cheap and overlooked, those 24 bottles take on a whole new meaning, don't they? You know what you're going to do? You're going to number not just the bottles, but how many ounces are in each bottle, aren't you? What's changed? Your perspective has changed. Life has been turned upside down. If you saw your raft mate brushing his teeth and spitting out that water, wouldn't you be like all over him? You'd throw him overboard, wouldn't you? What, are you crazy? You realize what you're doing? You're wasting our life here. This isn't just water, this is our life. This is what, in a sense, the psalmist is saying. He's saying, look, there's only so many of these. You know, when you're in your 20s, not to sound really middle-aged here, but I am, there's always like this, oh, I don't want to even think about that. I've got tons of years left. I'd like to see that little guarantee card that you carry around in your wallet that proves that. Because no one knows how many days we have. So when you think about this, you only have so many. Some of you, many of us here planned Christmas. And you know, when you're planning, especially if you're a mom and you got family coming over, you just want this, I just want a perfect Christmas. And Uncle John shows up.
Uncle John.
And Uncle John wants to talk about religion or politics or...
Stop it, don't.
UFOs or something like that. You know, he wants to argue, he wants to pick a fight, and he ruins Christmas. Or somebody, you know, something gets in your cross, you know. And can you imagine? And all of a sudden, whoop, only got 22 left of those, and I just blew that one on a fit of rage over the gravy, right? You only have so many summers. You only have so many birthdays. You only have so many soccer games, see? And the wise man says, I'm going to number these. I'm not going to just spend them foolishly and waste them.
You know, this dawned on me really for the first time, mortality, when I was 30 and my kids turned 10. When I was 30, my kids turned 10, I realized, wow, 1 to 10 went really fast, like really fast. And you get caught up in everything that it takes to raise kids from 0 to 10. And it's a lot of, you know, manual labor, really. It's just put your head down and change diapers and move forward. I mean, they were out of diapers before 10, but I'm in so much trouble. And what it dawned on me was the next 10 years, if it goes just as quickly, there are going to be huge changes from 10 to 20 for my kids, from 40 to 50 for me. The changes are going to be enormous. They could be out of high school, out of the house. They could have met or married their partner. And I thought to myself, what do I need to have in my tool bag for the next 10 years to help equip them for what they're going to do to get through here? And it really made me stop some things that I was doing to start some things that I hadn't done before. I realized, you know what, it's time to put some stuff behind me and maybe pick up some books I hadn't thought about reading before and start some relationships and conversations with people that I've never had before, because I need to do something different to get different results, because the old stuff isn't going to work anymore. I need some new stuff. You know, last night I went home. There's Saturday night service right here at 6 o'clock. You're welcome to come join us. It's a little bit more intimate. It's kind of fun. I went home. We preached this message last night. And I wasn't home but an hour and a half, maybe, and we got a phone call. And all we could hear on the other end of the line is just crying. And it took me a second. I couldn't even tell who it was, but it's Trisha's dad, and he's just sobbing uncontrollably because an aunt passed away. And this was a life well lived, very well lived. She's a pastor's wife. She affected thousands of people, not by ever being up front. I don't know if she ever was up front. I never saw her speak in public. She played the piano, and she gave enormously in the areas of hospitality. And this Christmas, she had it with her kids and her grandkids and the great-grandkids, and it was the last Christmas with her. Those pictures are the last pictures with her. And there was something about the way she lived her life, because she recognized this thing of mortality and eternity and laying them down side by side. And she said, I'm going to live the time that I have here for the time that I'll have there. And it's remarkable when that life is lived that way.
You know, we're going to give you three things here, just three relatively short things, I hope, but they're actually in the form of a question. And the first one is this. Is my life following the right storyline? What I mean by that is if your life is a book, then you have to answer the question, who's the author? Now, if you're here this morning, and I don't know why you would be here if you didn't believe in God, but if you're here this morning and you don't even believe there's a God, then the only person left is you. You're the author. You're the master of your destiny. You're the one writing your future. Think about that with me. If my life really is a story, like a book, every book has an author. Books don't appear, so who is the author? Now, if God is the author, am I following the storyline? In other words, God didn't just bring you, no one in here, I don't care what your parents, maybe some of your well-meaning uncles, called you boo-boo till you were 4 or 5 years old or something, but no one in here is an accident. And no one in here was unplanned. You may hear people say, well, that was an unplanned pregnancy. Well, it may be on your end a bit of a surprise, but it wasn't to God. Because Psalm 139 says, all my days are written in your book. So what may have been even a surprise to you was not a surprise to God. Every human being has worth and value because it's connected to the will and the heart of God. God willed it to come into being, willed that little baby girl or boy, you, into being. So if he willed you into being, then logically there are some things that follow. One is that I will never discover my purpose if I don't know the author. I will never discover really who I am. My identity lies in the author. The meaning of my pain lies somewhere with the author. My purpose in life and how I relate to other people lies in knowing the author. Everything connects back to the author because he has a storyline. Now, I believe that God allows us to have a measure of free will. I think he's sovereign, but in the umbrella of his sovereignty, he allows you and I to choose, and he loves you in the middle of it all. But he doesn't just allow you to choose, but he allows your choices to have significance on the earth. What we do ripples through our lives, right? Now, the Apostle Paul would put it this way in Philippians 3. Paul, if you know, was a persecutor of the church. He had a pre-Jesus life and a post-Jesus life. In his pre-Jesus life, he was a religious lawyer, a zealot, and he was a persecutor of the church. You know the story? God interrupts his life, knocks him off of his horse. He has a revelation. He goes blind. He comes back to sight, and he comes to faith in the midst of that crisis. And now he writes these words, brothers, not that I've already obtained all this. In other words, I haven't arrived at my goal. Watch the verbs, but I press on to take hold of that for which Jesus Christ took hold of me. In other words, the author reached out and grabbed him. Is there a time in your life where you feel like maybe you have to go back quite a few years to a 6-year-old, to a 7-year-old, where you felt the presence of God? Where you felt, yeah, you know what? I feel like I know God. Isn't it crazy? A Christmas Eve service. Many of you were gone with family and so forth, so you weren't able to be with us. But our Christmas Eve service, we packed the place out. We just pack it out. And it's interesting, that it's full of people that don't go to church any other time. One person came up to me, made it a point to tell me, this is the only time I go to church. It's on Christmas. And she was broken and weeping. I thought to myself, isn't that crazy about us that we will come and deal with baby Jesus, but we don't want to deal with adult Jesus? We can come and deal with the innocent baby born in a manger and the cattle are lowing and not a sound they make and all those heartwarming things. We're drawn to that. We're drawn to the vulnerability. We're drawn to the story. But what happens when we grow up? What's up with that we feel like, well, I just can't relate to the adult Jesus anymore? And the Apostle Paul says here, he says, no, you know what? This adult Jesus, this wasn't baby Jesus that knocked me off my horse. This was adult Jesus saying, you want a piece of me? You picking on me? Why are you persecuting my church? And Paul said, who are you, Lord? Remember the question he had? Who are you? Who is this? He's blind now. I would ask, who is this? And he says, it's me, Jesus, whom you persecute. Paul says, but there's one thing I do. I forget what is behind. And I strain, relay race. I strain towards what is ahead. I press on toward the goal to win the prize to which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. If you're mature, you should be taking the view of this thing. And if on another point you think differently, God will make it clear, but let us live up to what we've already attained.
You know, one of the things that happens as we grow is old answers kind of lose their appeal to us anymore. Like there was an answer for some of my faith questions when I was young that was good enough. It was good. There's nothing wrong with those answers. They worked for me at a certain age. But then as I grew and I experienced a little bit more and maybe I suffered a little bit more and I've had a little bit more tragedy in my life, some of those old answers stopped working for me. And I had to go back and re-examine and say, is that really what I believe? And part of that process we can call doubt. And it's okay. As a matter of fact, doubt can be a wonderful thing if it moves you towards the truth. Now, I believe, because I've seen a lot of times there's people that come here and sit in these chairs and they don't know they're on death row, but they're on death row because we're all on death row, and they question God and they doubt on God, but they let that be some sort of a smokescreen or an excuse to move away from God instead of pressing towards those questions and looking for real answers. And let me tell you, I would much rather have the mature doubter who starts asking the deeper questions. Well, what is God really? And what is his character really? And who is this God? Because I used to serve a baby Jesus and he was cute and cuddly, but now this Jesus is coming into my temple and turning over my tables and frustrating me. But you know what? I'd rather serve the God that is than some God of my imagination, right? Some warm, fuzzy, cuddly, Germanic-looking white bread Jesus that I've posted on my Pinterest page. Look at the one I love. Now, I want the God that is, even though that might hurt a little bit.
And be messy. Mm-hmm. You know what we're looking for here is really, when people tell me they're agnostic, I'm looking for some, I don't know the word exactly, maybe it's intellectual honesty. Are you a sincere agnostic or are you a careless agnostic? Mm-hmm. I can take the fact that you're undecided. I can take the fact that, hey, 2014 was an awful year for me, and I wanted to know, my question is, my title would be, where were you, God? And you know what? God's not threatened by that. Some of us here in this room have trusted God, and we've had some pretty battered times, and we've asked the question, where was God? But like Jason said, sometimes I think people use that as an excuse to not press through to truth. They just choose to live in this doubt, and it almost becomes a self-absorbed existence. They nurse this thing, and it's like their badge of, hey, don't mess with me. I've been wounded. I've been hurt. All right? So I'm only coming at Christmas. Listen to this quote by Os Guinness. If ours is an examined faith, then we should be unafraid to doubt. Doubt is not a sin. If doubt is eventually justified, that is, if you do the investigation and find out that God really did let you down, God really is not worth serving, he is unjust, then he says, then he's clearly not worth believing in. But if doubt is answered, our faith has grown stronger. It knows God more certainly and can enjoy God more deeply. You see, because you're going to serve either the author of the story, the one who claims to be the author, or you're going to serve you as the author.
Can I just point out something here? We're almost championing doubt in a way because it moves you towards something real. We've even said doubt isn't a sin, but listen, unbelief is. All right? Because unbelief is something different. Unbelief is I've been confronted with the truth and I refuse to believe it because of the cost. Because I see that there's a cross at the end of this road and I don't want to go down that road. And so you're purposefully choosing not to believe. And your doubt can quickly turn into unbelief, and you can try wearing it around like doubt, but it's not anymore. It's no longer a doubt for you. It's become unbelief because you've been confronted with the cross of Christ and you've decided not to pay the price. And that's something completely different. Because listen to me, one of the biggest frustrations in my life of preaching is this. You can take someone to the cross 52 Sundays a year, but you can't hang them on it. You can't. That's a decision that you make, right? The gospel can be presented to you clearly and authoritatively, but it's your choice whether or not you're going to believe it. And it's a choice, I'm telling you, needs to be made today because, like I said, you're sitting on death row. Look, I love you, and I'm not trying to bum you out. But the truth is that phone call is going to come one day, and it's going to be about you. It's not going to be an aunt. It's not going to be somebody else. It's going to be you. And the life that you live will be judged by your belief, and even your actions and your deeds are going to be judged. And some of them are going to burn up because they were useless. They needed to be put behind you.
See, if I'm not going to boast in God, I'm going to, by default, I'll boast in me. I may do it subtly or I may do it overtly, but it will be about me. Listen to the words of the prophet Jeremiah when God spoke to a people who had moved from doubt to unbelief and from unbelief to the wilderness. He says, this is what the Lord says, let not the wise man boast of his wisdom or the strong boast of his strength or the rich boast of their riches or the cute boast that they were sexy or that they were good, whatever. He says, let the one who boasts boast about this, that they have the understanding to know me, that I am the Lord who exercises kindness, justice, and righteousness on the earth. Here he's talking about know. They know me, which leads us to the second one. If you can't really go to if you don't answer the first one honestly and correctly, the second one will be meaningless. Is my life marked by a desire to honor the author? Is my life marked by a desire to honor the author? Jesus said in John 15, listen, the world hates you. Don't forget it hated me first. If you belong to this system, it would love you as its own. But you don't belong to this system, but I've chosen you. There's that word again that Paul used. I've chosen you out of the world. I'm writing this story for you, right? So what this is about is not only do I acknowledge that he's the author, but I acknowledge that he's calling me towards something. And really, faith is a response to that. Faith isn't an intellectual, yeah, I believe that. No, faith is a response to that call. What I'm describing here is obedience. Obedience is a response to a request. You know what I would guarantee you? I would bet everything I have. That if you would approach 2015 with this idea, you know what, God, I don't know, last year was a wash, I'm not sure about last year, blah, 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 but you know what? Challenge me this year, God. That's a dangerous prayer. But you know, God, whatever you have, you're the author of the story, and I don't want to write a crummy chapter. I want this year to be something I can, just tell me what you want me to do, and I'm on. I'm here for you. Do you hear, Lord? Because the reason we laugh, because we all know it's not that easy. We all know that obedience requires a certain amount of discomfort, don't we? I want to ask you a question. What would happen if you decided this year that when God asked you to do something, you'll walk through the pain and sacrifice of obedience in order to discover the promise of obedience? You see, because obedience has both sacrifice and promise attached to it. I'm going to say it again. Obedience has both sacrifice and promise attached to it. We would call that, we would put it in our vernacular of no pain, no gain, right? So when God calls us, he's not just calling us, he calls us to be his sons and daughters, but he calls us to do what he's designed, what he's ordained for us to do. And so that always involves leaving and letting go of one thing in order to pick up whatever it is that's next.
Kids do this naturally, right? They get done with something. I'm done with crayons. The crayons in this media, I've taken it as far as it can go. You know, my art is going to need better supplies. You know, if I'm gonna move forward as an artist, I've got to leave crayons behind at some point and move on to the next thing. And somehow, though, I think there's a comfort that we don't want to give up in that old toy box. There's just a familiarity there. There's a comfort there. There's something about it. I mean, I am not averse to going to the comic book shop and looking for old things that I used to have because, oh, I remember that. You remember when the Transformers first came out? But you know what? I'm 43, man. I can't be seen in there anymore. It's embarrassing. There's a time. I'm sorry. Did you know I do that? No.
I didn't know you were 43. I thought you were older.
There's a time to leave some things behind to move forward to something better, right? You know, Call of Duty can be a game or it can be a life. I can have a Call of Duty on my life, and it's time to put down the controller and pick up something a little bit more than that. And it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt because to say yes to one thing good, you have to say no to a lot of other bad things. If I want to get in shape, I've got to start saying no to pumpkin pie with the spray whipped cream, right? I mean, it was great for a season. If you didn't gain a couple pounds over Christmas and Thanksgiving, you weren't doing it right? Go back and try again. It was a time to, it's the holidays. You're supposed to eat pie 2 or 3 times a day for the holidays. And then it's time to stop, right? And say, okay, no, somebody's already rebelling. And then it's time to stop and say, you know what, it's time to put down the pie. That was nice for a time, but now it's time to pick up the barbell and to put on the sweats, not for eating, but for working out, and to move forward.
But isn't it more, though? Isn't it sometimes even more than pain? You know what? We call ourselves a resurrection community. You know why we do that? Because the resurrection is what changed our lives. Mm-hmm. You know what you need for a resurrection? A death. Mm-hmm. Somebody had to die. That's the core, the very core of the Christian message. That Jesus Christ didn't get beat up and run out of town. Mm-hmm. He died. And when he died, the Father wouldn't allow him to see corruption. He raised him up at the 3rd day. And he promises us resurrection. But guess what? Sometimes things have to die to be resurrected anew. Sometimes it's simple things, you know, like you just can't enjoy singleness and married life at the same time.
Right.
So to enjoy both the thrill and the responsibility of a married life, you have to die to single life. And you call that a bachelor party or a bachelorette party or whatever it is you do. But it's your ceremony to say, bye, I'm not coming back. I'm going with her. Mm-hmm. And then you're like that for a while and you have to die to life with no kids. And one day you have a baby, but you have to make, something dies in order for the next thing to come to life. That's how life works all across the board.
Yeah. Literally all across the board. God saw this concept as so important that he put it everywhere. He encoded it in nature. And Jesus describes it like this. He says, very truly I say to you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Anyone who loves their life will lose it, while anyone who hates their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, where did he go? He went to the cross, and then he rose again. And where I am, my servant also will be. My Father will honor the one who serves me. This is so key to our existence that he literally put it everywhere in nature so we couldn't get away from it. If you want resurrection life, then old man has to die. Old man is a tyrant who will run your life like a dictator, and your decisions will be made according to your belly. This is what I want. and so I must have it. But if you take that old man to the cross, Jesus promises you a new life, a new birth, now worked through his power, through his Holy Spirit. And that old man is going to die, and it's going to hurt. The flesh does not like letting go. Get on the treadmill and see how it feels. Terrible.
You know what's wild is you could sit here and do an end-of-the-year message and talk about, hey, maybe, I don't know, maybe get to the gym this year. Or, hey, you know what, why don't you get out of debt this year? Or, hey, Oprah covers all this stuff really well. But imagine the wide open horizon of just obeying the creator of the universe, just you and him. What could happen? You see, because if I said, hey, you know what, our bandwagon is everybody get a gym membership, and we're just going to check on you over the next few weeks, we're all going to weigh each other or whatever they do there, you know what I mean? Can you imagine how weird and how canned and how human that would be? I mean, we'd all kind of have to funnel through the same scale, or the same system, or the same gym. It would be just so canned. But imagine everybody making a commitment that I'm going to obey God. I'm going to do whatever it takes. We're going to be a lot of crying just like that kid.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like. Imagine the adventure of just obeying the God, the wild God of the universe, and where he would take you. It's interesting. Let's see, Saturday, we went to the original Pancake House, my wife's birthday, and it's right by our house, and the server comes up and starts talking to us. She knows us, and she said, you know what? I took that financial peace class you guys did about a year ago. She said, that was so painful because I was in such deep debt, she said. But I made a commitment. I'm going to stop all my foolish spending, and I'm going to be debt-free. And she said, I began to sock away a significant sum of money every month, she said, until I was free. And she said, you know what? 2 months ago, I made the last payment. I'm debt-free. And then she starts crying. It was awful. It's awful. Why? Because on the other side of, just this side of the promise is this pain. Now, you know what's crazy, though? It's like this. It's like, it's pain with a purpose.
Yeah.
The worst thing is pain without purpose. I mean, has anybody in this room experienced the pain of disobedience? Like, come on. I mean, seriously, have you ever done something just out of your own selfish rebellion and stubbornness and experienced pain for that? That's grief, man. That's pain without any purpose. That's pain without any promise. That's worthless pain. And God promises us pain with purpose and pain with a promise.
Yeah, this is the connection, guys, to the last point we're about to come to. Because if this was just about death and pain, you should find another church. Someone that's a little bit happier or something, like, right? Oh my goodness, like death phone calls and pain and suffering and the cross. I mean, let's just listen to Oprah if we want to be happy. That's going to be better. But there is a purpose behind this. It's not that we're just, morbidly fascinated with the cross and with death. We die for something. Do you hear it? We die for something. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive the reward of his sufferings. Why did the Lamb go to the cross for you? For you. You're the reward of his sufferings. Now, what do we suffer for? Do we suffer for Jesus? Well, in a roundabout way. But really, we connect what we're doing to others. Because if all the things we just mentioned, you could do solely for yourself and for selfish purposes. You can get in shape for you. You can stop spending too much for you. Get out of debt for you. You could be a better person for you. Or you could connect this to something bigger, to the kingdom of God and to community.
That's the last one. Is my life? Last question is my life connected in a significant way to others? If you want to do an interesting little Bible study, just grab your New Testament and just go through it and Google in your program, your search, the word others, and watch how many come up about what it says about praying for others, about serving others, about bearing one another's burdens, about, loving one another. Everything in the New Testament was designed to be one another. What I'm describing here is this thing that we would call church, ecclesia, this called out group of people that are all on the journey together. This thing where we do it together, and only by doing it together do the full impact of our decisions begin to come to light. Imagine how your decisions and my decisions ripple through my family. Imagine how obedience to God or disobedience can ripple through your family, can ripple through your relationships, can ripple even into the life of a total stranger. God speaks to you and says, hey, say something to that person right there. I don't know him. I know. I do. Why don't you say something? Why don't you encourage this person? Why don't you tip? Let's just start there. Why don't you be kind? Why don't you imagine what could happen if we were on that track, that trajectory?
This is why marriage is such an amazing proving ground for all of this. Not that you have to be married to become selfless, but when you become married, you can't avoid this. You have to deal with it because it comes up all the time. So that when I'm looking to put someone before myself, to choose someone else's good over mine, my wife is right there, right? She's right there to receive that. And so maybe you already have it built in. You know exactly where you're supposed to start with this in community. And primarily, it's first going to start in your family. But the very next place it starts, really, is in this community right here and in the workplace, like we've just been going over for a couple months now, as we talk through the idea of vocation. As this happens, it starts in your family, in your church community, and in the places where you work. You become selfless so that others can see Jesus.
As we finish this morning, worship team can get ready to come up here. Our world, John, the writer John, the gospel writer John would say, the whole world lies in wickedness. That sounds depressing, but the fact is, listen, we live in a narcissistic world. If that word is a frightening word to you, we live in a self-centered world. 365 days a year, there is a current of our world, the current like a river that says you are the center, that you are the most important, that you deserve a break today. You can have it your way. Eat, drink, and be merry. And listen, you know what? If there is no God, that makes total sense. And I would say to you, jump in, tear off your clothes, and indulge in that world. But if there is a God, then what he says is the greatest joy will never be found in self-absorption. The greatest joy is going to be found, first of all, in knowing me, the author and finisher of your faith, the writer of your story, and then loving others as you love yourself. That's the life changer. That's the deal breaker. That's what we're after here. What about this year? What would that look like practically?
Yeah.
What does that look like? What does it mean to go against the current? Because listen, if you think there isn't a current, I'm sorry, but you're in big trouble. If you think there is no current of self-absorption and narcissism in our culture, I don't know where you're living, but you're not on planet Earth. And it has a pull on you. Yeah.
I'd say one of the first strokes you make against the current, one of the great places to start here is praying for others. Right? I mean, honestly, our brain is absorbed with self. We think about us and our comfort all the time. So the only way to really turn that off, because you can just try to meditate and just try to get rid of self, and that's a Hindu idea. You know, that's a Buddhist idea. We need to lose the self. Selfishness is a problem. Let's get rid of self. But you know what? It doesn't work in a vacuum. You can't empty your brain, and you shouldn't empty your brain. The way to really practically do this is to stop thinking about yourself for a while by praying for someone else. Lift someone else up in prayer and say, God, not just me, but what about them? And what about them? They don't even know you. At least I know you. God, what could we do for them? How could we move them towards your cross today? And then be willing to be the answer to the prayers that you're praying.
How about serving with others? We offer tons of opportunities throughout the year here to give away your time. What a precious, precious resource. We already talked about it. You can imagine how much it would mean to give away one of those precious bottles of water. Hey, I only have 24, but man, here, I'm going to gift you one of those. Imagine, if you were just to serve somebody else. I know there's a certain amount of pain to that. But what's the reward? What's the promise of reward? What about giving without looking for a personal return? I'm talking now maybe of giving something away. Money is, we talk about money a lot. I'm not as scared to talk about money one bit because everybody else talks about money. Come on. You think the holidays was you really think in the secular world the holidays was about the birth of a baby in Nazareth or in Bethlehem? Come on. It's about the economy. So what about this giving away of something that's very close to my heart, namely my money? And I'm not talking about, this isn't a sly plug to give to the church, but I'm just saying, if you have an abundance, what if that abundance really wasn't all for you, but you were meant to be a channel and be a blessing for somebody else? That's going to take a little bit of trust.
This looks like just looking out for someone else, right? Just looking out for them. I'm not gonna fight to get my way right now. I'm gonna look out for them for their personal needs. How about being baptized? You heard in the announcements, I hope, if we got it right, that there's gonna be a baptism class after service today. Why do we keep talking about baptism? Are we just really into dunking people? It's kind of fun, yeah. But there's more to it than that. This isn't an option, people. This isn't an option. We walk through this life with Jesus as if some of the things that he said are up for debate, as if he wasn't a king. You're still treating him like baby Jesus. This is not baby Jesus anymore, guys. He is King of the universe, triumphant. He has died and risen again. If he says that you must believe and be baptized, you better well look into this baptism thing and what it's all about. A place to start would be right after service tonight. Because if you're saying he's king of my life, I'm submitted to him, I've repented of my sins and I want to walk this way, and the very first thing he asks of you, you refuse, you better start asking yourself the question of whether or not you are really on that path or you just are walking parallel to it.
And if you say, well, getting dunked in water isn't that big of a deal, I would say, okay, then just do it. What? If it's not a big deal, why haven't? Because really deep in our heart, we know it is.
Yeah.
We know it is. Baptism is to Christianity what the wedding is to the marriage, right? What about this? What about just an attitude of gratefulness? A deliberate taking stock of my days and looking for places to be thankful rather than places to be offended and hurt. There's a great book I would recommend. It's written by a woman. It's kind of written, I think, to women, but it's an amazing book. It's called 1,000 Gifts by Ann Voskamp. And what it is a journey through the year and figuring out every day, these are things that gifts to me. And gosh, I'm grateful. How do you put it? You said a grateful heart?
Yeah, people get it backwards. They think, oh, that joyful person is really grateful. But it's completely different. That grateful person is really joyful. Because gratefulness doesn't come from joy. Joy comes from gratefulness. If you'll make a decision, and it has to be a deliberate decision, because like we said, there's a gravity, a pull to narcissism and selfishness. And a selfish person never feels like saying a thank you because they feel like they deserve it. But when you get it in your head that, you know what he did for me, I don't deserve, and everything I've got since then, I really don't deserve, and you start being thankful for the things that you have. And if you'll purposefully say those things out loud, just vocalize them to somebody, right? And I mean face to face. Don't just put it on Facebook. Get in someone's face and say, this is what God has done for me. Then now you've vocalized something that's going to bring you joy, and you've improved their life.
Take some time to laugh, would you? Take some time to laugh. Yeah, that was
lame.
I gotta tell you that.
Whose laugh was that?
Just
someone tickle them.
The journey doesn't have to be all sorrow and all drudgery. There's a lot of laughter along the way. As we finish up here, our prayer this year is that we wouldn't come back here 365 days from now and go, yeah, boy, mediocre would be the title of my chapter. My prayer is whether you're 18 or whether you're 80, I don't know how many chapters you have left, but please don't waste it. There's a God who is for you. There's a God who loves you. There's a God who is a miraculous God. He's not a toothless lion. He's a Lion of Judah.
Yeah. And I just want to challenge you, if you're here this morning and you just maybe we're looking for a better life, but you don't have new life yet, you need to come up. You can do it right where you're at, that's fine. But if you want a witness to it, you need to come up and pray with one of us and start new life. All right? New life. Because I'm telling you, just to add on an improvement to your old self isn't going to be enough. It's not. It might be time to die so that you can live. I mean, really live. It's time for that thing that you've been holding on to be put in the ground like a grain of wheat so that you can stop being alone and you can start to bear fruit.
Let us pray with you. Father, this year we're grateful as we look back at 2014 and we see, for many of us, there was new life. There was babies born and there was new jobs. And there were bonuses. There were maybe great vacations or love came into our life. Maybe health was restored finally to our bodies. A wandering child came home. A broken relationship was mended. Would you take a minute and just look back over this year and just put into practice what we just said? Would you just look back over this year, and if there's something that you can see that you can say, man, God, thank you for your faithfulness. I really saw your grace and mercy there. Would you just take a second and give thanks for that? Maybe you're here this morning, though, and you look back and 2014 is like a really dark cloud, and you still don't understand what it was all about. Disappointment, maybe tragedy or loss. Maybe there was nothing but tension. You know, the truth is, all those things are part of a good book, part of a good novel, part of a good story. And our hope is that the author of your faith, Jesus Christ, will always have the last word. And in that we can be thankful. It may be tough to be thankful for the tragedy, but he said this, he said, listen, in this world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. As we finish this morning with just this last song, would you just take a minute and let God speak to you before we break?
Come now, fount of